Hello, hello.
Hello.
That was a fast. I pressed the wrong button. I meant to fade into this.
Very exciting. Here we
Now
are
that
again.
my stinger effects have disappeared.
Stinger effects.
But yeah, we're back again. I know we missed last week, or had a rerun up. So
I was playing a gig.
yeah, I
Couldn't
was
be here.
kind of sick. So
Oh yeah. I think it's been swooping through. I definitely had the old 2-day cold, the non-COVID cold, earlier this week. So feeling better now.
yeah. So we thought we'd kind of hang around and talk a little bit about some game development stuff. Messing around with Unreal lately, Unreal Game Engine, um, and kind of thinking a lot about sound design in games and how it works different than other mediums and stuff. And Corey and I have been discussing a lot of things about that and how those systems work and how to build sound libraries for games. I know we've touched on a little bit of like game sound design in the past, or like taken like samples at least from games and done some remixes and stuff. But we thought we
Very different task from writing music for a game.
Right. True. So, but yeah, thinking a lot about we talk a lot about the sound design in Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild a lot, and Zelda in particular as a game and their sound design has always been really well done, and particularly when it comes to the kind of reactive sound elements in the game. So if anyone out there has played, you'd probably recognize times when you're just out wandering around, and then you come to like you get into combat or something, and the music will dynamically change into either another version of the track or another song, or different elements of the song will be sort of pieced together. I don't know if we can play any examples. I didn't get anything prepped, but we could probably.
Right.
I don't know if
It's hard to like. I think we'd have to
yeah.
find a video of this to show an example of it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like the thing about it is that it's reactive.
Right.
We can like. I mean, I think it's not. I don't think it's terribly complicated to explain how these things become reactive, right? I mean, I assume a lot of people who are watching the stream have played some video games before. Certainly, in the era when I started gaming, in the early '90s. There were not a lot of reactive scoring being made. A lot of that classic video game, like the classic video game composers challenge, was like it wasn't even. It was like fit a song into a tiny amount of data,
Right.
and only using like 3 voices and a noise source. The ingenuity of early console composers is so incredible. Like the things that it's a story of squeezing every ounce of performance out of your hardware, and it's pretty impressive. But the main goal was to make a piece of music that, like we were talking about earlier, Jay, like a piece that loops, that like you don't get sick of hearing.
Yeah.
While it loops, because you might be playing that level for a while, And so like some of those melodies are like super iconic and memorable. Like I mean, there's a bunch of them that. I don't need to tell you what the memorable video game songs are. But those compositions are pretty static, right? They exist like. Interestingly, they're like the old school game soundtracks. They're not audio files. They are. It's like MIDI. It's essentially like a MIDI file, but it's not. It's a proprietary format for the console to instruct the sound chip what to play. So like the cartridge contains music, like sheet music essentially, and the console plays it back. It's like a player piano kind of. Yeah, isn't that wild? It trips me out.
Yeah. The old technology is.
Yeah.
When it came to the music.
It's fascinating, and it's really interesting to hear people talk about writing for those systems. And
It's pretty crazy what they were able to do, though. Like just some of the how iconic some of the songs are, and recognizable even with with like modern production methods, like even the same tunes you can recognize.
Well, tunes are tunes, right?
Outside of the
It's like the
concept,
melody
yeah.
and the chord progressions and stuff. The wild thing to me is that they couldn't play chords on those old systems. So like those like Mario, the Mario theme doesn't actually have any chords in it. Or like sort of fake it by like passing, like I don't know. There's all sorts of tricks. Like you can only play 3 notes at a time on that system, and the melody and the bass line are 2 of them. So yeah,
It would be really interesting to see that like broken down into.
Oh, I'll see if I can find something.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super cool. I do have like I believe it's this one. This is an emulation of the. Is this the? No, this is the Game Boy chip. This one is the NES chip, I think. I have a couple of these emulations. Right? It sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? So like you can make a pulse wave, you can make a triangle wave, and you can make a noise.
Oh, that sounds really familiar. Just those.
It's a certain very particular quality. This is I believe a hardware level emulation of the like a circuit based emulation of the chip. It's really neat. Like some of these things are like solved emulation problems, and you can write with the sounds of an NES or whatever. But I'm not constricted by the limitations of the actual console. I could like restrict myself to those limitations, but I think it'd be really hard. You really need to like. If you're really hardcore, you write your chip tunes for emulators and you release them in emulator format. Or if you're really hardcore, you release them on carts.
Like a cartridge for.
There is a scene of people putting out releasing albums on Game Boy carts with visuals.
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
Because why not? Like, so you basically it's like a music video for your entire album. On a cartridge that you play. Yeah. I think it's so cool. But like it's just like what a labor of love to produce that, right?
Right.
Anyways,
well, I'm all about convenience now.
Yeah.
The reason I use Unreal is because I don't have to worry about like all those like, I can drop in some WAV file that I find somewhere and don't have to.
Right. Yeah. So the big revolution in game sound was audio, pre-recorded sounds, right? And it took a while for that. There were some like crude sampling capabilities in the NES, but they were very crude. They were a little less crude on the SNES, but still fairly crude. And it was like the generation after that when like things were really like, things started turning into more about like playing back actual what we call pulse code modulation, PCM audio, WAV file stuff, instead of playing back like a music file. Like with a synthesizer, Although I think probably a lot of them still include little synths in them.
I've always noticed that like back in the like a lot of the older games, the sound files were like some of the biggest files that would like come with the game. Like there was times when like if you downloaded a game online, you could get versions of it without the audio, and the audio was like was a gig, but the actual game itself was only like 300 or 400 megabytes.
Yeah, and so like that's probably like because like the like a lot of the game information is like vector like or type stuff. It's like it's like information about like something that then becomes rendered, whereas like the audio is rendered already. Like what you're talking about.
It was particularly the Grand Theft Auto games that had like all the dialogue, like spoken dialogue.
And huge hours-long radio stations.
Right, and like recordings are just like really big files. So you could get copies online that were just the game without the dialogue or some of the other stuff, and it was just like it still had the subtitles, so you could still play it. But I always thought that those games when I first played them didn't have spoken dialogue. I didn't realize that they were actually all voice acted.
Like maybe they were synthesized or something like that.
No, it was just there wasn't any audio. It didn't come with the
download.
download. It didn't come with the dialogue. So it was like just reading everything like a Zelda game or something, and never had spoken dialogue. So
yeah, I never really thought about how big those assets were. But like I played a lot of like what was it, GTA 3? Is that the one before Vice City?
Right before Vice City.
Yeah, and like that had like a similar kind of amount of. I played both those games a lot, and like, and like Vice City had a ton of audio assets. Like the music in that game was a huge part of it, and it was like a big part of the previous game, but still like the graphics were really crude in GTA 3 compared to Vice City even.
Right.
And but like, yeah, I didn't really like think about how the audio would be a majority of that data, because like those they probably are using MP3s instead of waves, but maybe not, like, and it's just like hours of MP3s is still like a lot of information.
Unreal won't even let you put MP3s in there. Like they have to be waves. Yeah, they come in as a different like some kind of media format that doesn't work inside of the like sound processing. I guess the new one is they're calling it. What did it say? We just watched a video. Meta Sounds, I think, is the new one. Sound Cues, I think was the kind of the older version. But yeah, I was trying to upload an MP3 in there, and it comes in as a different kind of thing, and
that's interesting.
Doesn't
work properly? Like,
no, it's some other kind of asset that you have to do something else with. I don't know if there's a way to convert it in Engine to work, but it wants the WAV files.
Yeah, I mean, always, like, I would think with any software, WAV files are easier to play because they're uncompressed. They are the data, right? Whereas, like, the MP3 needs to, like, it's encoded in a lossy, compressed way, data compression, right? Not audio compression. And then has to be decoded, I think, right? Because, because it's like, the way it's compressed is that, do we know about this? Do you know about this? How MP3s are compressed? Like,
don't they just take out, like, the frequencies that aren't as used as much?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, audio, like, it's not like the way audio files are stored is it's not like the way a WAV file is encoded is it's not like at like 1 second, like this frequency is present and this frequency is present and this frequency is present. It's just like it's a time and a value. It's just two-dimensional, and then that allows you to recreate a waveform,
right?
Which then you can extrapolate the frequency content from. But that's like that's called a Fourier transformation to get from the or what is called FFT, fast Fourier transform, or like FFT analysis to. Okay, we're gonna get into the weeds here, but I believe this is Fourier who put this forward that. And probably some nerd out there watching the stream is going to tell me I'm wrong. So I fact check me in the comments, please. But the notion is that any sound that you hear can be recreated from an infinite number of sine waves at fixed frequencies. So like if I have like a 100 hertz sine wave, and like here let me get a 100 hertz sine wave. And it's turn that up and down at the appropriate moment, and I have like 101 hertz sine wave, and turn that up and down at the appropriate moment, I can recreate, and I just have like 20,000 sine waves for all the different 20,000 hertz. I can I can reproduce any sound, any complex sound by just turning them up and down at the appropriate time. So that's like, but like audio doesn't actually exist that way, right? And so like when there's this interesting thing about like which data gets thrown out, right? And so it's like. I think with like the MP3s, one of the things that happens is like what a high frequency sound is when the values are changing rapidly, right? So like so I would think that like there's some sort of like filter where they like drop some of the values when it's changing super fast, so that like appears to change slower, and that would sound to us like less high frequencies, which is a fact about MP3s. Gosh, now I really want to look this up because I'm curious about the real details about this. But anyways, this compression throws out information, and it like can only throw out information in the vertical domain or the horizontal. It can either throw out information about where the position of the wave or the time. And it doesn't make sense to have, you can't throw out one without the other, because you can't have like time without a position of the wave is silence, and we're not inserting silence. So what it does is I think it just literally throws out information that it doesn't need. So like like if it's say the wave is at the same value for like 8 samples. Yeah. Then it might be like, hey, this value, 8 samples, and then like the software that has to decode that and like actually put 8 samples there.
Yeah, that's exactly what the video will do too.
Yeah,
like, Same principle, just with the visual, like colors instead of that's why you get like blotchy spots if it gets too compressed.
Yeah. MP3,
you know.
the crappy sound of like cymbals, like on drums with like low quality MP3s is like the audio version of that for sure. So that like sticking these in the software, it's this extra layer of computation to like translate from MP3 to WAV, which is ultimately what's getting played.
Right. So, and
So it
I
makes
bet
sense.
you that like when you package the game, it compresses stuff for, you know, for its own, you know, in whatever kind of format that it prefers. But yeah, it's been really interesting because I've been working on building some character locomotion animations and stuff, and it's really fun to build the animations and then add sound cues that trigger sounds, like for footsteps or say, you know, if you have a character that's swinging around a sword or something, and adding a sound cue to that animation that when it hits that certain frame of the animation, it plays the sound effect. Um, I really wonder if there's like you could build such like dynamic ways of doing this. There's like I saw an example of a character that had like a kind of like a leather pouch on their side, and I'm not sure exactly how it detected it, but it has like it's almost like a collision based thing. So like while the character was running, you could hear like the rustling of the leather against the character, you know, the pouch that they had on their side. So it was like, you know, or just recording like you know, the clothes of a character, just the like clothes rustling as they moved and all the little fine details of it. Like, you know, if a character is wearing armor or something, it's kind of like building Foley, but then it automatically puts it on the cues that you need, you know?
So this is the modern workflow, right?
Right.
So where like so like if you think about Mario, like Mario has one sound when he jumps. And fun fact about the NES, that sound is also made by the synth playing the music. So anytime you jump, a voice drops out of the music to play that jump sound. Anytime any sounds happen in that game, a voice drops out of the music to play it. So if enough things happen at once, the music goes away completely.
Really?
Yeah. Any NES game is like that.
Huh.
They can literally only make 4 sounds at a time.
Interesting.
Triangle wave, 2 pulse waves, and a noise wave. I think maybe like that one doubles and can play back samples or something like that.
Yeah, we definitely can take for granted sometimes the how far things have progressed since you know, we watched this. There was this great video, and I'll have to show it to you. Excuse me, Corey. I'll have to find it. It was kind of the like the history of CG, computer graphics stuff. Just so fascinating. Seeing like computer graphics from the 70s and like watching how, you know, they had this video of the guy describing vertices on this old computer, you know, you know, one of the ones that is just like little tiny screen about that big and like is, you know, just a few lines of pixels rendered, and he was like, you can take it and move this one vertice, and it was like 3 lines all connected, and that was like some of the first computer graphics, and like, you know, that was 50 years ago. But it's pretty amazing that it was still like being developed. You know, it's gone from needing a room needing a like computer the size of a room to now we can like, you know, I was sculpting 3D characters on my iPad the other day, like,
right.
you know.
Yep. Making hit songs on your phone, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so the modern video game workflow, which is what Jay's talking about, is like way more interactive. So it, like the idea is that like the score and everything is going to be more lifelike. You know, everything like the CG, the generated stuff is becoming more realistic, and with it, the audio becomes more realistic as well. So in the real world, when the same event happens twice, they make 2 different sounds. Like, you know, like you know, so like. A really basic thing to do is like have a catalog of a variety of sounds that you can then trigger. We like this phrase round robining in music. So it's a thing you do in music too, when you like sampled some like drums, you say, and like, so you record like a snare, and like a sampled snare generally sounds exactly the same every time you play it. But you can create little variations on it so that like when you play it, you hear like you might hear variation 1, and then next time you play it, you might hear variation 2. Next time you hear it, you might play variation 3. And that could be random, or it could cycle through them, or you could like link them to another parameter, like how hard you hit the drum or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so you can do all this stuff in Unreal, which is incredible. It's really fun.
Yeah. It's the same with the footsteps.
Yeah,
Like every footstep, you can have like 15 different random, samples, and then 15 samples for walking on grass, 15 samples for walking on gravel, for stone, for water, puddle of water, all those different things. You can have just such a variety of different samples and have those all queued up so that every time your character takes a step, it picks another random sound to play.
You wanna check out my screen real quick? I'm
Yeah.
just gonna show an example of this. I have, a while back, acquired a great deal of these sounds from Breath of the Wild. They're out there on a website.
They're out there.
They're out there. It's just a .com. You can find them. They're not hidden. If you know how to use Google. Anyway, so I thought I'd like show you like just a smidge of what like this sort of stuff looks like. So like here's
Cloth,
here's a terrain called cloth. So like
so many.
Some of these are identical. Are you noticing this?
Huh.
Like this one? Those two are identical. But other ones,
they're pretty close.
Yeah.
But just even just subtle variation can make it seem less
totally.
like.
Where I really want to find the where's like the link noises. Yeah, here. Here's a good example of like a variation on like, so here's the sounds of Link lifting things. There are 9 samples of Link lifting. And these are the noises that he makes when he lifts things.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like his like grunting. So
Love
like
it.
when you pick something up in the game, I'm fairly confident it randomly triggers one of those samples.
Oh, yeah.
And it might actually be a thing where like a heavier object triggers some of these ones where he sounds a little like more intense.
It could.
But I'm not sure what it looks like in the engine. But these are the lift sounds, and these are the only lift sounds.
Yeah, that's one big mystery of Nintendo. I don't know if anybody, but unless you're working there directly on the game, like what their pipeline looks like.
Right.
Because of course a lot of these companies have their own engine. They're not like they're not using Unreal or Unity or whatever.
Totally.
Some of them do, but Nintendo definitely doesn't. They have their own thing. That's actually an interesting. I've never really looked that up. I wonder if they have like something they.
So like
That's just the look, and that's like when they turn their head.
Yeah, so this is like, these are all the boar sounds. So like a boar, which is just like a randomly running around in the world, there are 20 different sounds that it can make. And
I wonder how they got these samples, like from a real boar, or are these like generated? There's probably a voice actor for the boar, I bet. I don't know, can a person make that? You think somebody can make noises
so
with
I'm debating this. As I'm listening to them, I'm thinking about it. Some of them sound pretty convincing to me. That being said, did they go out and like mic up a pig for this? I don't know. They may have just like found a sample library that had like and just pulled out a handful of pig noises from it. Like I feel like this like it's hard to say like how they came up with this, but like
yeah.
Like probably, I imagine all these like animal noises like are probably pulled from libraries because like why go out and mic up a donkey?
How do you get a clean like sample of a donkey making noise? You got to put them in the studio.
Well, here I want to point something out about the boar sound. Where did that go? Like that one's like there could be all kinds of background noise in there, but it's so trimmed that we don't know.
Yeah.
And so like, we played around with some of those like spectral processing tools in here before, and so like you can totally clean up some of this stuff, but like like presumably they're out like in like outside, but also like there's not you don't have to worry about room noise outside. It's just like wind, and then like if the thing starts stamping around in the mud.
And you're never gonna hear these like in a completely dead silent space in the game either. Like there's gonna be like the environment noise, there'll be music, there'll be the footsteps and the the wind and the birds and everything else combined sort of hides that.
The noise floor, right? You can hear the noise floor in this one, I think. It's subtle, but there's like a hiss on top of the sample. But it's just so tightly trimmed. There's no silence at the beginning or end. So you're not ever hearing whatever background noise there is in isolation. So it doesn't really matter.
And plus you've got like another feature of the game engines too that I find fascinating is the like proximity sounds.
Yeah.
So like if you're further away from something and it makes a noise, it's gonna sound in the game like it's further away. So you're never like right up on the pig, like you're never gonna hear it this loud probably. So
this was the most interesting thing that Jay showed me when he was playing around with the Unreal stuff was like that like you drop these sound sources into the 3D environment like a 3D object, and you can tie them to actual objects in the environment too. So like the pig object is actually emitting this sound, and the engine is handling this like drop off of like the distance stuff.
It's so fun because you can in the system I was just creating. I didn't have a sound effect yet, but I was creating a kind of a combat system, and the character will swing a stick and hit the other character, but it on hit wherever it hits, wherever the two trace, like the collision box of the character and the line trace from the weapon, whenever they collide in that spot exactly is where it generates a particle effect and a sound from that location in the game. So you could you could definitely pinpoint it exactly in a 3D space where the sound generates from. So.
And you're not limited to just like interaction kind of sounds, for example, like if you were building an environment where like it was like mountainous and you were going over like a pass, like or something like that, or like through like a narrow, like a little passageway through like a pass, you could have like wind blowing through there, and like as that you get closer, like the thing that happens as you go like across like a mountain ridge, like it's like the wind whips across it, and like so you can have that happen. So like as you enter that area, there's like audio that plays in a region.
Yeah, we
saw this cool. Fun. Yeah, we saw this cool demo where this dude had this thing set up where like not only did it do that, so like you establish an area like a volume in which the sound occurs, but then you can like parameterize it too. So like you can like have it be like, okay, so when my character enters this volume of space, this sound is going to fade in. So like you obviously as a player you don't see the borders of this thing. So like, and you're probably not going to like inch your way towards it to like try and test the boundaries of the system. You're going to walk up to the thing, and naturally like the sound's going to kind of fade in as you're walking towards the space, and all of a sudden you're kind of near this ridge and you're hearing the wind whipping past your ears.
It makes such a huge difference, like even just in the base like game demos that come with like the templates that come with Unreal, the minute you add in like a environment sound, just the wind blowing or something, it brings it to life so much.
Yeah.
Like it goes from being just like a looking at a picture on the screen to something that feels like a space. One thing I really want to try too is having sounds in an area have different like reverberate in the room, or like have a different sound inside of a space, because I think that the sounds are based on your camera's perspective. So I don't know if if the sounds that you hear in your ears from the left and right channels, so you're wearing headphones or whatever, are based on your character, or if they're based on where your camera is.
That would be an interesting thing to test out.
Yeah.
I would think that like from a practical perspective, like so like a common thing, like when you do the 3D stuff, right? It like doesn't matter what's happening off camera, right? Like your model can do all kinds of janky weird crap. as long as the camera doesn't point at it, right?
Right.
And so like there's like a similar thing maybe with audio where like certainly like the environment cues and like things that aren't happening on camera are really important for some games, and some games do include that in some capacity, right? But like also it's like just like with video or animation or whatever, like the important things that you want to hear are the things that you're looking at. You know,
Right.
like if you see something and it should make a sound and it doesn't, that's much weirder than if you don't see something and it probably should make a sound but it doesn't, right?
I'll have to try out some of the like, when you go back and you're like looking for these things in games, you notice them. I have to see in Breath of the Wild. I bet you, well, like obviously it's different if you're playing a first-person game. Then obviously, it should be whatever direction you're looking at. You should hear things through the left. I know that a lot of the like one series and most of the games to look at that do really good sound design are like the Call of Duty games and those kind of like first-person shooters, because they design it so that you can actually listen, and like part of the mechanic is say another character's footsteps, like another player walking upstairs in a house or something. You can stop and like listen for it, and gunshots and things too in the distance. So like,
so here's how it has to work, right? So you have to be able to like not only like, so if I want to create a game engine where I want to be able to someone to be able to hear where another player is and find them, then it needs to be tied to both the distance from the player and the direction of the camera. Because you have to be able to point yourself in that direction and hear it a little louder to know that's where it's coming from, right?
Exactly.
Like it has to come from a direction. But then like when you are facing that direction, it has to get louder to you, right? Like, if you are playing with this is like the challenge of stereo versus surround, right? If you have a surround system, that problem goes away, right? You just put it behind them.
Right.
And then they turn, and then it just pans. But with stereo, you have to fake that.
Right, you fake that surround sound.
And so, and I would think that you fake it by making whatever the camera's pointing at louder than the things that it's not.
Exactly. I feel like I'm gonna go home and test this out, because I'm really curious how it handles the 3D like spatial sound, because I know it does all that. I may have to make a demo. I'm gonna try it in both first person and the third person templates and see what it does and how it like affects the sound stuff, because I'm really curious what the defaults are. If it's not default like that, you could probably set it up, I'm sure.
I don't know too much about like how like 3D audio is like spatialized in stereo, but I have headphones that do it, and it's pretty interesting. Like but if you don't have headphones that do it, like people will still say that they can like put it in your headphones anyways, and like some headphones do literally have multiple drivers in them too. So there are like so you'll find a variety of, so there are both like, you can just like, I just have two like normal headphones, just one speaker in each ear, right?
Right.
And so you can like, you can't literally make something play in front or behind someone. If there's multiple drivers, you can come out like one in the front or one in the back and create a little sense of space. But there's like ways that people like use these like psychoacoustic tricks to put things spatially in your ears. But I think a lot of times it's just like, I don't really know. And there's different algorithms depending on what you're doing,
It's definitely like a faked spatial. I forget who's got. Remember, it was like big for a while. There was somebody's got a spatial sound thing.
Apple's pushing it really hard right now.
I think there is one built into Windows too. I think there is like a even in the sound settings, like there's some
like spatial.
you can turn on just mono audio.
That's helpful. That's an accessibility thing for folks who have like an imbalance in their hearing between their ears. Like if you're like deaf in one ear or just have like way worse hearing in one ear, like running your audio in mono lets you not miss out on one side of the stuff.
Right. Huh. I'm pretty sure that there's definitely like some ways to turn on like spatial sound.
It might need a connected or like a compatible device. That's the case with my like I have AirPods Pros and like.
They claim they talk about doing.
They do a spatialized thing. It's like it's interesting. I kind of hate it. I don't like what it does. In general, y'all, I don't like to do anything. I try to do as little as possible between the final
Post-processing
product
stuff.
of audio and like my listening to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like spatializing like music that was created in stereo is like just might as well just bass boost it and slow it and reverb it. It's just like throwing a bunch of effects on it. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm just like getting further away from what the artist intended me to hear, you know. So
Right.
it bothers me. But people are now making music specifically for this, and we should get into it. So there is a music mixing version of this game technology that you're talking about. This like object-oriented thing. So okay, brief explanation, right? So we're talking about like stereo audio versus like surround sound, right? And so like in music, most music's mixed in stereo. If you want to mix it down in surround, a lot of times it's just like they just stick the sounds in the different channels, like the pan stuff, hard left and right, or whatever. But so like you can mix stuff for 5.0, and what you do is you or 5.1 systems. So that's a normal surround sound, right, where you have a center channel and then like front, left and right, and back, left and right, and a subwoofer. So you don't usually have to mix for the sub differently, but you can. You can like in movies, it's a separate channel with its own separate information.
Right.
So if I have a song and I want a 5.1 mix, like I'm doing like panning. So like here, like in Ableton, like if I want to like decide which of the two speakers that my sound comes out of, I use this knob. I can send it to the left, I can send it to the right, and I can choose that per track. So in a 5.1 system, there's multiple axes, right? Like, but essentially this is like I can't really like pan it. Like I guess maybe you could develop a system where you can send it forward and back and then left and right, and like sort of localize it that way. But really, ultimately, what you're doing is you're deciding how loud each speaker plays the sound. So this is literally like in the middle, both speakers play the sound the same volume. If I move it to the left, it like turns down the right and turns up the left, and vice versa.
Right.
And so like if I want to make a 5.1 mix, I'm like, okay, I want this in this center channel, and then a little bit in this channel. And so I'm making decisions based on like how loud I want it to be in each speaker.
Right.
So that's like makes some sense. But so there's a new cutting edge, new paradigm, and it just so happens that I am good friends with the guy who wrote the manual. It's like my old buddy Bennett, one of my best friends, like little brothers. Yeah, super random. So this is Dolby Atmos. You probably heard this phrase.
Oh yeah.
Bennett went to a art school in hi Lily. Bennett went to art school in Seattle, or like a technical arts where he learned like audio engineering in like a hardcore way, and landed himself a job at Dolby.
Wow.
Works in San Francisco.
That would be an awesome special guest.
Yeah, I think we might be able to get him on the stream at some point.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fun. We're definitely gonna talk more about it. But anyways, so he's helping to develop and support. So like if you know, like Lucasfilm has an issue with Dolby Atmos and they need help, he's the guy they call. Like it's pretty wild. Like it's an interesting gig. But so the paradigm is just like the paradigm in Unreal. So instead of like choosing how loud things are in a speaker, all of a sudden you are placing sound sources in a three-dimensional environment. And so this allows for any number of speakers to play it back because it's adjustable to the playback system. So instead of making a specific 5.1 mix that is different than the 7.1 mix, you just place the objects in the environment. And then the speakers, however many you set up, whether it's 5.1 or 7.1 or 7.2, or the Atmos system, which is 7.1.4. So that's center, front left and right, side left and right, back left and right, subwoofer, top front and left and right, top back left and right. So it's like actually above you as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother thing.
Totally. And so like you can move that object in a 3D space and like it'll just come out of if your system's calibrated correctly, which it has to be, it'll just come out of whatever the appropriate speaker is, as if it were like, you know.
Wow.
So it's like a little game engine mixer, basically. You know? Like it's very much the same paradigm.
That's very cool.
So it requires like huge reconstructing of DAWs because they're not designed to work in an object-oriented way. You know. So like it's like this whole like translating these mixes that we're doing these traditional ways into that platform is like that's a huge technical undertaking, and that's what his job is. But this is, so it's not just relevant for game stuff. It's going to be, this is going to be the new standard for everything, I'm pretty sure. So like, like film, audio, and music. Anyone who's doing music for any sort of interactive or 3D experience, or just wants to create a 3D experience for their music.
Yeah.
That's going to be the tool that everyone's going to use, I think.
It's pretty cool. And then combine that with VR too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, this is like essential for VR, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like, because that's all like so interactive and reactive, because like the listener's position changes, like it's all, that might end up being more like a game thing,
Yeah,
but like
still,
if you wanted to like show off, like have VR, like something on VR, and then also have people in a physical space too.
Some VR music videos.
Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Man. Yep.
We got to do one of those for one of your tracks.
Oh, it'd be really interesting. I wish we could have loaded those Unity game art games.
Well, we could do, Unreal's got it set up. We just build the scene, put it in 3D, play the track, and like you just sit there and like absorb it all around you. It would be just crazy.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. It'd be a real
cool
experience.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube's got the new. It's not really new. They've had it for a long time, but the VR videos that you just you can play them. I don't know if any. I don't really see anything about it anymore. It was big when VR was sort of still kind of a kind of a gimmicky thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. This is like stuff like captured with those like 360 cameras or whatever.
Yeah, and like the Google Cardboard and stuff when that was coming out. So it's been quite a few years, and they sort of pushed it for a while. But I don't know anybody that's really doing VR video stuff much anymore.
Yeah, it's all super niche outside of gaming. Like it seems like the gaming is the primary application.
Yeah.
And then like there's a bunch of interesting niche things that you can do. Like I was saying yesterday, there's some like visual artists I follow who are definitely sculpting in VR.
Like a virtual, music video that's in 3D that you can stand there in the space and like not just a 3D video, not just like a 360 video, but actually you could do some mocap stuff with the artists and have cool models. You could all be aliens hanging out on Mars and jamming out, and that's like you're standing there in VR with the 3D characters and hanging out. They're playing for you.
I think Danny Harrell did this. I think
really?
I think there is a 3D version of Club Harlcore. Which we should definitely track down. I would love to go check that out. When he released, that was part of the marketing for that album.
I think it's a pretty cool thing, and I mean, it's still they talk about doing virtual, concerts and stuff like that. But you could literally just stand on stage in VR. If they put a VR, even if we're doing 3D real time, concerts, and you could just put your VR headset on and be there at the concert, up on stage in on the camera, and you could just look around and watch. That would be pretty cool.
It's a thing that's happening, sort of.
Yeah, I feel like you could sell tickets for something like that.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, those concerts in Minecraft and I guess those were pretty crude, but the Fortnite concerts would be a better example of that, where it's a big event or whatever. I think the Minecraft concerts are literally just people hanging out in a server and then playing music over the voice chat.
But this spatial music stuff is in 3D. I mean, then you even you go even deeper in and have the music is actually coming from if it is these 3D characters playing music, the music can come from the instrument in 3D, and you hear it you're actually there. You get right up. You can.
And that's where the experience becomes interesting and different from just
listening to it.
I saw some funny debate about on the subject virtual clubs, right? So imagine go to a virtual club and go see some DJs DJing in VR or whatever, But they're just playing, I mean. Not to belittle it too much, but DJs are playing pre-recorded music, and so all that music comes out of the same source, but
right.
So it's not terribly different than listening to a mix on your headphones or whatever. But you're talking about, right? If you have the song separated out, so where you have the bass track and the guitar track and the vocals, and they can come from point sources.
Right.
Then you can sort of kind of in real life you would do is move around and kind of get your ideal mix
Yeah.
Or just like go up and like take a listen, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, get real close.
I can see it being super cool. Like, I would love to see this actually. Like, imagine this, like your favorite band, like in like playing around a circle around like one of those 3D cameras, like, with like super high res video and like super high quality audio, and then you get to go watch it in VR, and you can go and like take a look, like watch their hands, you know, like
Yeah,
and like
watch others
listen,
play.
and like you know you'll zoom in and like hear their sound better too, you know. Like,
Yeah, it's some cool stuff. I really am excited for the technology. I definitely one of these days looking to invest in the newer VR headset to do some Unreal development in VR. I think that's some cool stuff. I know the technology is still not quite like full on consumer yet, but
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a
like
lot
you're
of-
restricted by your available audience, right?
right. But there are, it's people getting the Facebook, the Meta headsets. They're pretty popular. Like I have a few students that have some that have the Meta Quest too, and it's getting to the point where like people just kind of have them.
Yeah, they're around
know,
for sure.
Are always looking for more content for them because you want to feel like you got your money's worth out of it. But it's cool stuff. I'm excited to see where it all goes and how much Unreal's a free software. I mean, free to use for unless you're making. I think they've got it at like I don't even remember. It's like over $1 million.
You have to make a lot of money.
Yeah, before you have to like pay royalties.
Which is great. That's like good for them. But,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean
they're making plenty of money.
Yeah,
like,
the Fortnite's the reason they can do that, I'm sure. But still, it's great to be like, we have plenty of, we don't need to have a subscription or
totally.
People encourage people to use their.
It's very creator friendly.
Yeah, so
which is nice. Yeah,
but
it'll be interesting to see like the rumors about the Apple VR headset are bubbling back up again.
Oh yeah, I've seen
and
some of that.
Totally, and just like with like the kind of ubiquitousness of iPhones in this country, like I kind of wonder if like that might be a thing that like
kick it off.
like really like I mean I'm not saying it's going to change the world necessarily, but like it might like kick up adoption kind of fast. Like.
Is it going to be like a full VR or is it AR too?
I believe it's VR. I believe it. I don't know though. I have not followed these rumors very closely, but
yeah, but it's interesting because they're trying to like kind of promote it as a business tool as well,
which I find so bizarre. Like that's the whole thing that's flopped about Meta right now, right? Is like the idea that people are so sick of Zoom meetings that they're going to want to go to Zoom meetings in 3D instead, like.
It would be interesting. I'd like to try it someday.
I think it would be an interesting novelty, but I can't imagine like.
I would make us a cool meeting room in Blender that we could all go and sit in and chill in there, like, and then build it out as like a.
I can imagine doing it as a fun thing with friends more than like like a business thing,
True. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's if there's money for, they got to do some kind of like nonprofit. What do they call that when you try out something? There's a word for it when they like send stuff to businesses to try out and like, interesting. There you go. You can go, yeah. It has a lot of uses to kind of like bring it into,
cool.
kind of make it more, have a, you can build these spaces. So it would be sweet to have a VR MARZ meeting space.
Yeah. So I guess I'm like oh I don't know if anyone's gonna want to do that, but like that's my opinion, right? And like for a lot of people, like especially like in a place like this, which is pretty remote, just being able to like it's a different feeling. It's like seeing someone's face on a video versus like being in a game environment with them, and like some like for folks who've grown up being in game environments with people, like that's gonna feel like very comfortable and familiar space. And I don't know. We should all have the choice of like what we want to do. You know what I mean? Like it's like more options. I think is great, and like more ways to connect with each other. I think is great too. Yeah, it sucks that there's like such a tech barrier for this thing, but like hopefully this like adoption of things starts to drive it down.
And it's they're about the same cost as if you're buying a PS5 or PS4 for for your kids Christmas present or something. Like the quests are about the same price, so it's
cool.
like, you know, they're not so
It's like a
expensive
console.
that they're, yeah. I mean, it's like buying a console, which people, you know, obviously they're successful. It's just because they're all standalone. You don't need a compute like a, you know, you don't really need a nice computer anymore to run them. So
Okay, yeah. I think I'm still like I'm in the mentality of like, oh yeah, they're like essentially displays.
right, yeah. So you don't need any of that anymore. A lot of them now are just a standalone, you know,
cool.
wireless headset. That's what the Quest 2 is. It's just, you know, you just put it on and you're in, and it charges and you're good to go. So, but yeah, well, cool. I know we didn't get to. We were gonna try to demo some stuff, but we did end up talking, even though we kind of moved into other things. But still, yeah, it's neat technology that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, I'll be able to demo some Unreal stuff. I haven't tried it on this computer yet. I know it's even a little bit like a little slow on our new computers, and I was like, what?
Is it running on your laptop?
But, I haven't tried. I could try it on here. One day I'll try to demo some Unreal stuff. I think it'll be.
We could try like rearranging the stream setup for that demo or something like that.
Yeah,
Run the stream from a different PC.
We'll figure it out. I think this should be able to do it. I think I think it's still maybe a little a higher, little more upgraded than even those ones out there. But, anyways, all right. How you feeling? Should we wrap
I'm
up for
feeling
today?
great. I think it's not a terrible time.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll be. I think next week is Thanksgiving, so we might just do a rerun. But no Thanksgiving special, unfortunately. Just Corey and I sitting here eating turkey.
I'm gonna stay home, Jay. You can come.
Let's do it from home. Yeah, you can set up a whole spread. Do one of those. What do they call those videos where people just eat in front of the camera?
Mukbang.
Okay.
Right.
Do a MARZ version.
MARZ mukbang. Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
Might get our. I don't know. It's a kind of content we have not tried yet. So.
We got a lot more before we get to that point that we could try. A lot of other content.
I think it's pretty. This is a funny idea just to do like kind of like parody stream styles, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, we gotta do some like we could do product reviews. I think that would be kind of more up our alley.
Like parody product reviews.
Parody,
or like
maybe.
real ones? I have some real ones. We could do some real ones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know we kind of done it in the past, but
yeah, I mean, we tend to. It's more of like a gear workflow and functionality discussion than a product review thing. But like something that I've thought about. Yeah, like I was saying. Yeah, we talk about headphone choices or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe we can get.
We're always buying gear. I got new gear in the mail right now.
Oh, hey.
I might show it off pretty soon.
All right, everybody. Well, it's 7 now, so we'll leave. All right.
See you later.
Take it easy.